Welcome to Accelerated Mixed Martial Arts Training, Effective Force Delivery Principles. In this video, I'm going to go over the key principles in order to develop a more effective hook strike that you can apply to your own mixed martial arts training and your own personal fighting style. I'm also going to go over the common mistakes that are made when delivering the hook punch that often end up when fighters break their hands or damage their hands in competition. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the primary advantages and disadvantages to delivering a hook punch. A hook punch is basically a circular blow. Alright, circular blows are designed to go around, come outside the body parameter and be delivered around the body parameter. And here my opponent's body in here like this. Okay. Hooks, uppercuts, overhands are basically all circular type strikes. They work off of a curling motion in here. Okay, so if you think about doing a bicep curl here with a dumbbell in here like this, the basic premise is to use my shoulders in here, use my pec muscles and my biceps to curl in here like that, right? So the advantage of the circular strike in general is that I can hit at very, different distances in here. I can hit really far out, and I can also hit very close in here. I can also hit on different angles in here like this, right? That's a major advantage of a circular punch, right? The disadvantages of any circular strikes, obviously, they're more telegraphic and they require more energy and more commitment. So even if you deliver the perfect hook punch in here, right, there's more commitment in your body in here like this, and if you miss this thing in here, right, it's much easier to get countered because your body's out of position, okay? So let's go ahead and go through some of the common mistakes when delivering any hook punch that often relate into fighters breaking their hands. Okay, I said before that the basic essence of a hook is a curling motion here, like a barbell curl here, where the palms are facing, towards in here like this. That allows me to articulate the wrist more in here, right? It also allows me to use my reach a little more if I need to. I can curl in close and I can curl really far out, okay? Now, in styles like boxing, all right, a common way to deliver a hook is to deliver a horizontal type technique in here like this, where the knuckles come along the horizon here like this, right? Get real close and deliver a shot here at a right angle. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that punch except for a couple problems. All right. First and foremost, distance is a big problem with that. Okay. This punch delivered in boxing can get away with this because they got their hands in a cast of gauze and tape, and they got 10-ounce gloves on. Right? So they got a big cushion in here where they can hit basically along this line in here, and really don't have to hit with the front of the glove in here as much, and still get away with some realistic force. Right? So the problem with hitting horizontal here in general, and this happens in boxing as well, is if I don't hit at a perfect right angle like this, and my skeletal structure, my metacarpal bones aren't lined up on the point of impact in here, and I hit bent like this, right, I don't have the articulation in the wrist in here, and I am not following one key principle, and that principle is called the line of force principle. All right, the line of force principle, I've said this many times in other videos, is defined as the specific functional trajectory that your strike has to take. Whether it be a hook, a jab, a cross, an uppercut, it doesn't matter. What this means is there's one proper power line that your technique has to take, your limb has to travel in order to maximize effect and minimize damage. If you don't follow that line of force, you're either going to damage your hand or you're going to lack in power. Okay? Now, most people who study martial arts usually throw somewhere between along the lines of a straight punch and a circular punch. What I call kind of erratic or artless strike, which means that they don't really take the specific path that they should. So when particularly in a hook, for example, a lot of fighters throw somewhere between kind of like a cross and a hook what I call a haymaker, and kind of deliver it in kind of a dominant or kind of an action where they come on top of you to kind of create like this dominance, like pounding you in the earth type thing like this, right? Or they throw in some telegraphic action in here like this and end up hitting in a bent position in here where the bone structure can't absorb that kind of energy, all right? So going back to what I was saying about delivering this horizontal punch, if we're talking about the line of force principle, the line of force principle is running from my elbow, right, in here, through the target this way. That is the proper pushing or punching position for this specific technique here, for this energy, okay? So if I were to push the target this way, this would be the proper position in here like this, okay? Not here, okay? So what ends up happening is when people try to deliver this so-called hooking action is when they keep their guard in here like this, they're trying to come like outside the body, or if they do come outside the body, is come around and clip the guy in here like this. Okay, this is a very effective technique as long as you hit at a perfect right angle. But you know what? That's not a circular motion. There's nothing hooking about this motion. This is a right angle cross, if you will, or a right angled jab, if you will, delivered here like this. Okay? If you think if you're gonna curl in here like this and create this hooking action here, you're not using the pec muscles and the biceps in the most efficient way. That's why you can curl a lot more barbells in here like this and dumbbells than you can here, right? You have way more back muscles involved, a lot more pec muscles involved in here, and you got your forearm more involved in here like that, all right? So when you deliver a punch this way in here, right, it doesn't matter if you're in close or hitting out here, your forearm and wrist are in the line of force like this, and now wherever I hit along the head in here, right, I have a lot more margin for error because my wrist articulates like this. It doesn't articulate like this, okay? So you cannot strike the same way that boxing throws their punches with those 4-ounce gloves on, all right? And that's why a lot of fighters have the stretch fractures, because the person's head doesn't stay right here, or maybe it does stay right here. Let's just say it doesn't stay right here. Let's say I throw this technique and I arc this thing out, and he ducks his head and I hit here, bang, like this, right? Well, my hand is going to come to a screeching halt because I'm hitting basically right on the top of the head in here, and I'm not hitting in that line of force. Okay, so if I deliver it more vertical in here, I may hit him in the top of the head or the side of the head in here, but at least my skeletal structure and my tendons are in the proper line, right? I deliver that shot in here and minimize damage, and also I'm going to maximize effect. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and now go through the proper mechanics on delivering any hook. Okay, when delivering an effective hook, as far as the mechanics of what the arm has to do, a couple key principles that we need to kind of work with in here. I first explained that you have to follow the proper line of force, okay? So whether it be a circular punch, a straight punch, a kick, you have to find the proper trajectory that the human body is going to work with in a relationship to motion, all right? Now, when delivering a hook in general in here, the first principle that you need to be able to do, all right, is you have to be able to control the time-distance variable. What that means is you have to deliver this at a realistic distance that is not going to put you out of position, A, so you don't get countered easily, and B, also put you in a position of power in here, so when you do deliver a technique in here, that your whole body is underneath you when you deliver the strike, right? Often you see a lot of this stuff in mixed martial arts where fighters are way out here and they try to lay with this haymaker in here like this, and they wonder why they get taken out, or knocked out, or get taken down, or they hit in a really bent position in here like this because they're just way out of position. They're too far away. They're extending don't cut the time distance variable down enough. So we got to deliver a hook at a realistic distance. Now, depending on the length of your limbs in here, if you're really tall and long, you might be able to get away with hitting way out here like this, right? If you're a shorter person, you're going to have to get in closer. But the point is to find the optimal range for your hook. Now, let's go ahead and kind of talk about basically where that is, right? You need to be able to kind of put your forearm and body in what I call the end position, in a stable position on the point of impact, the optimal point of impact for delivery. So you can think about if you were to deliver a hook in here like this, where would that be? You got to kind of find that position in here like that, and then work backwards from there. Right? So as I bring my arm out here like this, right, what I'm trying to do is trying to get my forearm and my wrist kind of in a right angle or a 45 degree in here. And what I can do is I can step back a little bit, and once I start to get my forearm more straight, then I know that I'm too far out. So I got to kind of deliver it in this manner in here, all right? Now, once you can kind of get your body in that optimal position in here like this, okay, you should be able to kind of bring everything back to kind of, you know, to the starting point here, and actually bring your arm around. If you think about his limbs, imagine his limbs right here like this, or a pole here. I'm trying to actually go around his arms in here like this, bang, and try to hit him at a right angle, right? I'm not trying to pull this thing back. I'm not trying to arc this thing in some weird position. I'm basically following the same mechanics or the same position where I would do a cable fly or a pec deck in here, right? So if you think about it here, as I find the end position in here like this, right, in here, as I pull myself back, I'm just kind of tracing those steps back in here, boom, in here, like that. So when I do deliver the shot, my whole body is right underneath the technique like this, right? And I'm not leaning out here trying to deliver the punch or leaning back in here, right? All right, so you have to be able to go around somebody's defense in here, and that's essentially what a hook is designed to do, right? I'm trying to stay right in front of you and actually create just enough of an arc, an angle in here, an arc, to go around your defense in here like that, essentially the basic essence of what a hook can do, okay? All right, so let's go through a more effective way how to deliver a hook, what I call a detour hook. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of go through the mechanics here and what has to happen and to deliver what I call a detour hook. All right, now I'm going to use this barbell here as kind of a reference point to a person's body perimeter to show you kind of what we're trying to accomplish here. And the detour hook was created basically to deliver a very sneaky circular strike against opponents who have very good defense. In other words, they have really good blocking or covering defense. Right? So usually when you deliver a normal hook in here, you need to come out and create this arc. And remember what I said in the beginning, circular punches are more telegraphic in nature because you have to move some of your body away from the rest of your body. Okay? Well, a detour hook was created when people had exceptional blocking skills or covering skills. Right, so you go to throw a hook in here like this, or a straight punch in here, they're basically parrying, bam, bam, and blocking here like this. So they're picking those general techniques up. So what I learned how to do was figure out a kind of more sneaky way to deliver a hook to go around somebody's defense like that and have a better chance of hitting them. And also a hook that was safer for the wrist and allowed me to hit at a lot of different, different angles and also at different distances too. Okay. So taking this pole in here like this, imagine this, right? Right. Imagine this is the here's center line, okay? Here's another shoulder, and here's a shoulder in here like that, right? So if you're right-handed in here, or if you're left-handed, it would obviously be on this side. You use your lead side, right? Now, think about what a basic detour principle is, right? If you're driving a car down the street, let's say I'm driving my car down the street in here, and at the last second, something darts out in the middle of the road, all right? Or I see something that I got to swerve, right? Well, it would be much faster for me to just basically go right around it in here like that, right, than it would be to slam on the brakes, throw it in reverse, back it up, and then try to go around here like that, okay? So that's essentially what the concept of the detour hook is designed to do, is to basically to go right around somebody like this and just create this very sharp angle in here, okay? Now, when you do this in here, the way to get the basic idea down is if you took like a pole or something in here, or if you did it on a bag, kind of line up more off to the bag, don't line directly up on the bag at first. And imagine like you're going to punch right to this pole, right? So imagine now that the pole's on center line, you're going to punch to this pole in here, while you're slightly over it, or over here like this, right? Or over it here, right? And what I would do is, what I'm trying to do is start the first few inches out with the hook, but with a straight punch. Now why do I want to do this in here is because I don't want him to see this big action coming out as much as I possibly can. He may see it anyway, but I want to try to minimize how much he does see that. All right. So the idea is to create a straight punch, or a couple inches of what it looks like to be a straight punch, right? And right in the last couple inches, right when he buys into this idea, to block or cover in here, is to go right around that thing like that. Okay, so you think I'm kind of starting the strike out with a straight punch, but I'm finishing it with the mechanics of a hook. Okay, therefore I have a much sneakier strike when I deliver that, and also I can immediately block or change techniques. All right, so what needs to happen is you need to kind of start the motion here with a straight punch, a vertical fist in here. This works a lot easier with a vertical fist. If you deliver your jab more like this, you can still do this. It's not quite as fast though, because you have to go here and then turn the fist here, and you can still deliver that technique, right? But for right now, let's kind of demonstrate it this way. All right, so as I bring my fist forward in here, first couple inches, I'm going to actually take my body and I'm going to kind of move it off center line as I bring the arm out a little bit. I'm actually going to bring this arm out just a little bit. See how I create that kind of little forward motion, and then I come out, and then I finish coming around in here, okay? What I'm not doing is starting this thing and bringing this way out here like this, because he'll see it. So I got to move some of my body mass out a little bit in order to get my body angled in the technique, but I want to minimize how much I do that. You got to economize your motion, right? So you're standing in front of here is, you know, start relatively close, and what you're trying to do is just move your fist a couple inches forward and then bring your arm out and move your front leg a little bit with the arm right here, and then drop your weight down. Now basically all I need to do is just keep turning this corner in here, boom, like that. Okay, now if you just look at it from this side, do the same thing. I'm here. Make sure not arms out in here like this. Don't put your arms in here, okay? Keep your arms in a position where you can use this. Remember, the last second, I might even have to block. And I start to bring my punch forward in here like this, right? Come around, and then out here, and then bang, coming around like that, right? So therefore, if I start to do this in here and he decides to block or fire a technique, I can immediately block, you know, and do something else, right? I can also do this technique in reverse. If I decide to, you know, mess with him in here, I can go, you know, detour hook, but I also can go detour jab in here like that. I can do it in reverse, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and go through now. Once you kind of get that basic idea now, how to kind of create that sharp angle, let's go ahead and kind of back on the body opponent bag and kind of work on the mechanics and the accuracy of what has to happen. Okay, let's go ahead and go through the kind of the mechanics, what has to happen as far as accuracy and focusing the force here with the detour hook. All right, now I explained, you know, the base premise is we need to kind of create that illusion, you know, that we're going to go slightly forward in here and then bring this thing out in an arc in here like that. That allows me, you know, not to telegraph as much in here, right? Plus it also allows me to, you know, immediately have to, you know, abandon the technique and go into something else, okay? So when you're delivering the technique, as far as accuracy here, where you want to hit, you want to basically aim right, if you drew a line, down the center of the head in here, straight down and across, right where the center mass would be, kind of right in where the mandible, you know, and ear meet, right? Basically kind of the sideburn of a, you know, of a male person in here, right? And that allows me, when I deliver the shot in here like this, doesn't matter where his head goes in here, even if he pulls his head back or down, I still have a pretty good chance of hitting in center mass in here like that, right? Remember, don't hit like this in here, right? You want to hit flat here. If he changes his head down like this, or comes in, you know, low in here and changes levels, you still want to hit flat. Don't articulate your wrist just because his head changed along the horizon. Still follow the mechanics here of a curl, of a hooking motion in here, okay? Aiming at the chin, you know, if you can pinpoint it, great. Problem with aiming at the chin is if he snaps his head back, you can miss very easily. And if you know, clip him in the wrong position in here like this and hit with these first knuckles in here, right, you could easily break your hand in here like that, okay? So I want to make sure that my weight, you know, my energy goes through 3 to 6 inches through the target, right? And I don't want to glance off 3 to 6 inches, all right? 3 to 6 inches is, you know, the depth of somebody's cranium in here. Anything more than that, you're going to be telegraphing probably, okay? So ideally, a good spot would be to aim kind of right in this general area in here, okay? So when you bring that detour hook into play, and you're working on something with like the bobbin here, you got a little more of a realistic opponent as far as, you know, targeting, is think about creating that, you know, that short, you know, stuttered action in here, all right, but don't pull it back, right? Go forward in here, right, around like this, right? Try to, you know, deliver this thing in the right distance, so make sure you're kind of, you know, in the right position here, so you're not over-committing or under-committing, right? And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move my body forward a little bit and then offline, right? I need to create a little bit of a motion in here, right? Don't step way over here like this. That would be really telegraphic. But I need to do some of that in order to get half my body angled in the technique, right? So I'm here. I'm going to start with a couple inches forward, and then right when I go to forward, I'm going to move my arm and my body slightly out, just like that. See that little motion here, right in here, right? And the whole point of this thing in here is now my arm is outside of his arm, and I have a potential of going around and clipping him where he can't see it, in a blind spot, right? I also have the potential of really screwing with his mind here, because I can really be very sneaky as far as changing the techniques, right? So I could stand here and, you know, deliver my jab out here like this, bam, and then the last moment I shuffle around and come around here like that, right? As long as I don't pull it back, right? That would be telegraphing. As long as I come around here like this. Think about going around that pole again, or on that street. Don't slam on the brakes and throw in reverse and try to go around. Just go right around in here real fast, all right? So when you're doing this in here, start out slow. All right, chin down, knees bent, bring the hand forward a couple inches in here. Imagine you're going around that pole. Step out a little bit with the right leg, so my head goes somewhere between his shoulders and his head in here like this. So I come forward, wham, here. Now all I gotta do is just finish that motion around coming here like that. Okay? So again, ground, bang, here. Bam, here. You start to get more comfortable, kind of pick up the speed a little bit. But don't worry about power. Just concentrate on the accuracy and the mechanics of what has to happen. Forward. So the whole point is like, you know, in some total of this fight in here, he may not know, you know, what that's going to be in here, right? So I can do that in here, like that, right? I can stutter in here. Right? But the last second, you know, it's right when he blocks, or starts to block, right here, I come around in here like that. Okay? So, when you work this into kind of your training, is try to, you know, be very, very sneaky with it. Like, what I mean is try to create enough arc where you're effective, you know, but don't, you know, get in and try to throw all this power into it like this. I'm still trying to economize my motion, even though this is, you know, like I said, circular strikes are more powerful in general. Still try to strip away all unnecessary actions and economize your motion. All right. When you recover from the strike, is you should end up with your fist slightly beyond center line like this. Right. You should not be falling through in here. You need to be able to put the brakes on with your body in here like this, because if this doesn't work, you need to be able to continue on with whatever you think is you need next. Okay, so a lot of people, they throw a strike in here, they're not ready to, you know, blocked or evaded in here, and they end up getting themselves out of position. Okay, so think about, you know, when you recover in here, you want to go through about 3 to 6 inches and making a circle kind of in front of your body. Don't physically try to loop the punch in like this, right? You still got to hit through the target, hit through his equilibrium here, but think about mentally, when I bring that shot through, is I'm going to kind of circle it right back in front of my body, so my arm in here is still to protect, and I can come back, you know, and do something else, right? That way, if I miss in here, right, I'm still back in position in here like that, boom, in here like that, right? Plus, too, the recovery of the hook is the opposite of the back fist, bang. So I can literally, if I miss, bang, I'm right with a back fist to keep, you know, the energy on this guy, right? I can't do that if I deliver a big haymaker, and I certainly can't do it if I deliver something like this. Okay, so work that in the arsenal. You know, start out close, right? If you're working on a bag, you know, try to, you know, visualize, you know, the body parameter, right? Step forward a little bit with the front hand in here, move the hand first, let the body come out just a little bit. Here. Okay? That's the basic essence of how to deliver a detour hook. Practice it, work on it, make it work for you. Okay, let's go ahead and continue a little more on the details here on delivering the detour hook. We've kind of gone through, you know, what has to happen with the upper body, at least initially. Let's kind of go ahead and get into what has to happen with the lower body and kind of connect that to the rest of the technique. All right? So usually an effective hook should be delivered right at the kill, what we call the kill zone, or you heard the term in the pocket, where basically I can just reach out and touch this person in here without having to step. Okay, so that's ideally where you want to learn it from first, right? And apply it in competition. You need to be able to deliver it at that distance, but you also need to be able to deliver it slightly out of range as well, right? Now, if they cover ground for you, you know, and they get there, then great, you're there. But assuming you have to get to that spot, you're always going to be there. Let's talk about what actually has to happen with the lower body. And usually people throw a hook off a straight right hand or a straight left hand or a rear cross, which is fine. You need to be able to do that. But you also need to be able to deliver the technique by itself. Okay, so when you set yourself up in here like this, imagine, so you have your center line and you have your body parameter, right? Your lead leg, when you're in your stance, your lead leg and half your body, or some of your body, needs to shift over a little bit. Okay, now when it shifts over, it's going to shift somewhere between center line and his body parameter, somewhere like right in half. Okay, it's almost like I'm going to try to look over his shoulders a little bit. Okay, when I do that. All right, so I'm not trying to step way out here like this, right? That'd be too telegraphic in here. But I need to step kind of in that general area in here to get my body angled so we can come around and go in this direction, okay? If you don't do that and you step on center line in here, your body is going to be out of position. You're going to hit this person in here like this, and you're not braced at a right angle, okay? So keeping my head pretty much directly on center line or close to it, I need to get my lead leg offline in here like this. Okay. Now, when you do that, it's important that you try to bring the jab or your arm into action. Right? Don't step way out here like this and then wind this thing up. That would become way too telegraphic. But you're going to have to try to get your arm going into that, like I said at the beginning about delivering that jab idea, at least in the first few inches as you step over here. Okay. So you're not going to necessarily be able to go punch and then step and come around. But I'm trying to do kind of all that as much as I can and try to minimize or kind of economize my motion. So when you do this in here, it's practice kind of just getting your arm to come out with your foot in here like this. See how I kind of bring my hand forward but slightly out right here. That way it's outside his imaginary guard, holding a guard up in here like this. All right. Make sure that you don't bring your head too far forward when you deliver this technique. So I step out and I bring my hand forward in here like this, okay? I also drop my weight down a little bit in here, all right? I load my quads in here like this as I come around, and as I bring the arm out, I'm creating this flanking shot in here. Chin down, his other hand's up here to protect, and as I pivot my leg around in here, right, I'm trying to pivot and push my weight in that direction in here like this. It's very important that you try to drive your weight into the blow. Don't just try to turn in here. Like, all right, try to get your weight going into the technique in here. All right. Now, when you pivot your leg, a lot of people like to try to bring their heel off the ground in here, like this. You want to bring it around just enough to get your foot around. There's no advantage of getting your heel way off the ground in here like this. You get on the ball of your foot too much, your leg, your hip is not braced for force. You know, if you can see this here, if I get my leg way up in here like this. Okay, there's not a lot of stability right here. All right, you actually want to bring it up just enough to get it around, but you actually want to do the reverse. You actually want to push it to the ground. It physically may not touch the ground, but if you watch my hip in here, if I get my foot like this and I drive to the ground in here, my hip wants to go forward a little bit like this. Boom, in here. See that? All right, if I bring this thing up like this in here, I basically am balancing on like 5 toes in here to stabilize like that. Okay, so the higher you bring this leg up in here, the more you're relying on your Achilles and less quadricep. I want to take advantage of my entire muscular structure. So here's the center line. I step out a little bit, bring the arm out, drop my weight down in here, and as I bring the arm around, I pivot just enough and I push my foot to the ground, boom, into the technique in here. And I lock this hip in here so there's no give. Okay, that's very important, a principle right there. Okay, so back to applying it on the bottom here. Start pretty close. Don't worry about power right now. Work on getting your body in the right spot to deliver that shot. Okay, you want to try to economize your motion. Forward, wham. Okay, bring your hand forward like a jab in the first few inches. Step your right leg out. Let your body sink, and then pivot. Boom. Okay, again. Okay, Okay, see how I stop my body right here? Now I'm in position to just kind of pivot everything right back and start again. Okay? Alright, so go ahead and practice kind of connecting your footwork with the punch now. Okay, now that you've kind of got the basic idea of how to deliver that detour hook, now let's take it from the body opponent bag and working on a different bag. I like to kind of use more of a skinnier bag because it kind of resembles the realistic distance of somebody's head. So it makes it much more harder for me to focus and, you know, basically, so I focus and be accurate with this thing. So any bag will work, all right? So once again, bring your arm out, think about, okay, here's this shoulder line to the guards up, step out, start with a jab, first few inches, and with a hook, all right? Around, okay. Make sure your body weight steps offline and moves in that direction. Here. Here. All right? That's how you deliver the detour hook.